Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is a little bit after 4:30 on Wednesday. So already past the middle of the week. 3 trading days done. We got two more to go. So what was the major theme of the day today? Well, I would actually say a couple themes for the day. I think really crude was weighing on the market. Everybody was kind of looking at that. I had mentioned in yesterday's video too, some of the other commodities looked like they were kind of flashing some warning signals, like copper, and and that caused some volatility, I think, to the downside. Also, I think technology and growth really got a bit overcrowded, and we've seen that happen before when too many people are piling into the same names. We've seen this before in the growth areas, the software names. What'll happen is, everybody's kind of playing these things for 3 or 4 days, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of profit taking, and they get beaten down, and there's some put buyers that come in and kind of bring down the group. So it's the old rinse and repeat in that group, and you really have to be careful with overstaying your welcome in that group. So it's kind of was kind of an excuse, I thought, yesterday to take some profits. In some overcrowded growth areas of the market. That's always what gets hit first. So anyway, that was yesterday, and then today, you saw a move right back into some of these areas. You could see the Qs were up close to 3% on the day. Really nice performance there, and they actually, again, I'm looking at percentage change from the open. They did manage to kind of rally throughout the session, and there was various different groups that did pretty well. In particular, the semis group was up 5.6% today, and we had a couple trades in that group. That was a little bit of my focus this morning, was with watching results from Texas Instruments, Teradyne, which gave back, I think, a lot of the gains today, but still, it just shows where buyers kind of come back to this market. AMD and Nvidia seem to be, whenever there's dips, buyers come back into this market on dips. So it's pretty amazing. Let's dig into the S&P technicals, because they're really what helped us a lot, helped members of the Tribeca Trade Group the last couple days, just kind of mapping out the technicals the last couple days. And we've been doing this pretty successfully in regards to knowing where to take risk and knowing where to kind of sit on your hands a little bit. And one of the things that we said was this 1 hour chart. Right, this is what's known as the 80% rule. Once you start a period, which in this case, the 1 hour chart, you start the beginning of the week and you're above value, and you enter into value and you firmly establish yourself there, there is an 80% chance that you'll go all the way from one side to the other. That was perfect. So where we left off last night's video was saying, hey, we made this rule. There wasn't any major bounce at the end of the day. A couple bounces got faded, but this gave us a really nice tradable day, basically, and tradable level to trade off of, and that's 27.26. So again, we go over this in the morning. We go over this, not only do I send a note out, but we go over this in the pre-market session, and we talk about where there's levels. And I said, if we don't hold here, the next level down is this, but we held it pretty nicely. So now the 80% rule is complete. So once it happens, once we pass through price once, there's not another 80% rule the other direction. So I was pretty impressed with what happens today. Notice that we did not get back to yesterday's highs. So what we've been doing pretty successfully here as well is just taking one day at a time and just realizing where the good risk to reward setups are. And something like this, where we had a nice support level to trade off of. And again, this lined up on multiple time frames. The other time frame was the daily chart, right? And I think a lot of people were drawing like a trend line here and saying, okay, we broke this, right? And maybe looking for a move all the way back in here. That could happen. We don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we knew that we had support right here at 27.31, and that was a great level to say, okay, here's where we could fall to, which is very similar to that 1 hour level, and then we can kind of set up some trades. And if they break, if the market breaks a little bit further, then you have to be cognizant of that. And that could happen tomorrow. We don't know. We're in the middle of earnings season now, and we had a couple good reports out from Netflix and Chipotle. I think Chipotle. What was really interesting with this is they are this the how do I say this? The well managed companies are being able to kind of pivot in this environment. So there was a 1 hour. So there was not only a 1 hour VPOC taken out, but there was a virgin point of control taken out up here. So not to say that Chipotle is done with this move, but that is a great place to take profits. Also, if you go to the 1 hour in Chipotle, but from what I read with Chipotle, or I did not listen to the earnings call, but I did read some notes on it saying that their online orders really picked up quite a deal. So they're managing to kind of to be able to be successful in this environment, and I think that's really going to be the make or break with the rest of earnings season, whether or not some companies are able to to be nimble, right, and to be able to adjust to this environment and to be able to capitalize on it as well. We're certainly seeing that with some companies. So we did one VPOC was taken out here, another one 928 was taken out, has not been taken out. So that's one left. I don't know, if it's worthwhile playing for a move higher here, considering that I think the daily VPOC is greater than the one on the 1 hour. We talked about this that happened in XBI, the biotech ETF, 2 days ago. Notice that it took it out and it hasn't been able to reclaim that yet. So again, my interpretation of the virgin point of controls, it's where a lot of buyers and sellers have previously met up. As you get closer to them, they often act as magnets, right? Price will literally go and search them out. And then that's a good place to take profits and then to kind of watch a little bit. So that's what we've seen now. And biotech, Chipotle could be, we'll have to see, but I would not personally be establishing a trade there. Could Domino's reports tomorrow, could they have a similar result? They could, but I think the expectations are a little bit different. I think that there was a lot more people that were like on the fence with Chipotle, not wondering if they could actually turn a decent quarter. And I think Domino's, I think there's more people that have realized that they're doing well in this environment, right? It's very easy to order a pizza, and that's why the price is already basically at what was this, all-time highs in this one. So they're gonna have to deliver. Get it? But so I think this is going to be a harder earnings report, but we'll see what they return, because again, the price has already moved decently already. CMG, hadn't made a 52-week high, so I think there was still some move to be made, but up 12%. So that's a couple things, and I think for tomorrow, even though the market finished pretty nice for the day, again I think you have to take things one day at a time. The VIX is still a 42, so remember towards the end of last week, I think on Friday we got to about a 38 in the VIX, so it should be telling you that the volatility is still there, and we're certainly not in the all clear. And I think that's the same thing, obviously, when you look at the real world and noticing that most of the country, if not all the country, is still on lockdown. Businesses are still suffering in this situation. So I think you just kind of have to, again, I'll say it again, take things one day at a time and be able to capitalize on trades, on good trade environments where you see them. One of the things that we did today, and I'll go over some of the trades that I talked about in yesterday's recap. But Facebook, I thought, was a nice little trade. Notice that there's this consolidation. Obviously this was helped a little bit by the quarter that Snapchat turned in. But notice we're back above the 50-day moving average. That's the first day that Facebook is above here. So how would I trade this? How did I trade this? Because I did trade this today, right? And I didn't catch this move here on the lows, but I caught this move once we got outside of value. Now I know where my stop is, 180. And that's really how I've been able to kind of cope in this market and to do fairly well, is to just be able to define trades. So Facebook, I'm going to give this a shot long above 180, and then I've got my targets laid out for me. 189. And by the way, I did take a target in this trade today because I know how whippy the price action can be. But where I'm looking for this thing is to go to basically 189. 198 would be really ambitious. So I think this 180 189 would be a good level to watch, and possibly looking for a run up into earnings. Now I know Facebook, Google, there's a lot of arguments about them not making ad revenue. Still, I still think this thing can possibly run into earnings, and that's why I took the trade. Here's some of the trades that we did today. XLU, there was a pretty aggressive call buyer several times that we saw yesterday. So I got out of this trade right around the open, kind of took my profits in weekly calls. I'm very fast with if I'm in weekly calls and I see a profit in front of me, I take it. Sometimes I leave a runner on. But I didn't know how this tape was going to turn out today, as no one does. But I didn't know if we were going to see a little bit of a fade after the first, basically in the morning. Well, we didn't see that, so I got out of that. I did trade a little bit. I chased a little bit of Nvidia. I was quick to get out of it. So again, scalping. This was a trade that I put on yesterday in gold. Again, saw some calls on this one. Again, whenever I see calls, or option activity, puts, what have you, on the tape, it really has to mesh with the technicals for me. So I like this little congestion zone that we saw in gold, right? We saw a whole bunch of call buying in here, and this name, which I had already been in and took profits in. Well, once we saw, another call buyer basically come in, I thought it was a good name to play. So I took a couple targets in this one. There's a VPOC that's, we mapped this out about 2 weeks ago when I was initially in the trade, but took out a VPOC here, and then I'm looking for this other one to be taken out up at 28, and that's my goal. So again, as price goes up, and in this environment, I'm not looking for for home runs. Maybe the last piece of the trade you can look for the home run, but singles, doubles, and then hopefully try to get this, and then who knows, maybe up here. But that could also involve me taking off the trade, waiting for a little bit of digestion like this, or a check back, and then kind of re-adding a trade. So that's that one. Again, there was a lot of option activity today. Chewy was another one. I basically just used this for a quick scalp. Um, I did take off one trade for a loss from yesterday. This was a trade that I made money in the beginning of the day yesterday, and I rolled the profits. Well, I just decided to take that off. I had enough things to watch. The Netflix earnings trade that we detailed yesterday, I took off the short. Remember, this is an iron condor. I didn't think Netflix was going to move much for earnings, so I sold premium. I bought back the call spread for 20 cents, where I sold that piece for 245, and so selling it for 245, buying it back for 20 cents, and then at the end of the day, I did take off a good portion of the short put spread as well, right? So I was betting on that the market makers got this one wrong. They were implying a 13% move for Netflix. Sorry, here's the exit. So I sold. Sorry, excuse me. I bought back the short put spread for $1.80. I sold that yesterday at 470. Right, so that's a credit spread, collecting 470, buying it back for 180. I still have a piece on because I think that Netflix could stay above 405 by Friday's expiration. All right, and a couple other things. I wanted to give you an example too, besides just going over some of the trades. SE should be in here too. Took some profits on this 783. Again, we talked about this one in yesterday's video. A name that was down 4% yesterday, and has been a very strong name. And I like buying strong names on dips, right? So that was up 4% today. It's still, again, when I see that it hasn't gone through resistance, which it hasn't, it's got to get through 54.75. That I take a good chunk of profits. And then I can kind of wait with the balance to see if it can get through resistance. And these are August calls, and if it dips, I could always get back involved. But I would like to see this thing get through resistance of 54.76. Just a couple other trades that we talked about in the room. Tesla. Tesla basically was chopping around all day. until this afternoon. This is one of those, and this is what I do a lot of the time, is basically just set alerts. And then this way, once I set an alert at a particular pivot area, which was 707 for me, once the alert goes off, I don't need to watch the stock anymore for the rest of the day. I wait for the alert to go off, and then I'll go ahead and place a trade. So we did a call spread in Tesla, and you could see I'm half out of that trade. I just put on a $10 wide call spread for 395 and got out of half of that for 620. So I just need Tesla to stay above 722 and I can collect the full $10 on that. Easier said than done with Tesla because it's a volatile stock. So here's one that I didn't take that you could keep on your radar for tomorrow. We saw call activity, but for me, my system in the technicals always will outweigh what I see on the tape in terms of call activity. Because as we know, and I say this a lot in these videos, some of the call activity is going to be wrong. And you have to filter through and say, which ones am I going to take? Which ones am I not going to take? Or some of you don't look at the option activity, which is completely fine. You could just rely on the technicals as well. But Peloton saw a lot of call activity, short-term call activity today. But for me, I need a level to trade against. Right? Because I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their position is. They could be hedging a short. They could be doing a lot of different things. But I like this little digestion off the highs in Peloton. It's holding the 20 period moving average. So it looks fine to me on the daily chart. However, it has not made the turn yet. So what am I watching and where do I have an alert set? Right at 32.28. Right, that would be a move into value for the week. And that's where I'll look to get involved in the name. All right, so that's just another example of how we trade on a day-to-day basis, how we go through and we look for trades. And a lot of the times we're browsing, but we're not taking trades until they actually trigger for me. So all in all, a really great day. But I think, again, the theme that I guess is probably the theme of the day is just kind of take this market day by day. Don't get over the tips of your skis with risk right now because this was a great point that was made on Twitter, was that basically we haven't really, if you go back to the beginning of last week, we haven't really gone anywhere, right? We've been trading around a range. There's a fellow by the name of Ian on Twitter that makes some really good points. And he said, just to put this in perspective, there's a lot of people who are thinking we're going to go up. There's a lot of people that are thinking we're going to go down. Everybody's making I added this in. Everybody's making predictions and has opinions, but all in all, this is giving you some really good trades and in the individual names, and we'll see which way this market decides to turn. I think right now we are holding that top of value, so you can't say that we're going to move back down until we break that level, and you can't say that we're moving up right now until we break, higher back above the 50-day moving average. So you need more confirmation for now, and that's where that leads for me is to take advantage of the trades that we're putting on and not get greedy and not put on excess risk right now in this situation. It just doesn't pay to do that. And again, just kind of giving the overall market a compliment, this volatility is giving us some great trading ranges. So you don't really have to know what the next move is going to be. You just kind of have to plan it out a little bit and give yourself, the opportunity to, put on a few trades and know where you're going to get out of them and know where you're going to where you're going to take targets before you actually put the trade on, not while you're in the middle of it. And if you have to take and if you have to fall back a step every now and then, so be it. I was whining in yesterday's video about how I got stopped out in a couple trades. That's fine. I get over it really quickly, and then I'm on to the next day, right? And that's just how it goes. And the sooner that you could do that, I think the more successful that you will be at this game. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.